Imagine yourself in an examination hall writing a test paper for any subject, be it your favorite or most disliked one. Being a student, you might have written several exams so far, right? Recall how you felt when your teacher was about to give you the question paper. Did you feel anxious or stressed? What about your heart rate and breathing rate at that time? Was it normal as it is when you are resting, or was it higher than normal? Now, think of another scenario. Have you ever seen a caterpillar that finally develops into a beautiful butterfly? How is the process of development of a butterfly from a caterpillar regulated? What are the signals that triggers this developmental transformation? Responses to stress conditions such as school examination as well as the growth and development of living beings are regulated by a system of glands that together constitute the endocrine system. These glands also regulate other physiological processes such as reproduction and fluid balance. Can you tell how these glands regulate such a diverse range of physiological processes? Let us discuss the endocrine system to find out the answers. Before discussing the endocrine system in detail, let us learn about some related basic concepts. Recall that the nervous system produces rapid but short-lived responses to stimuli and coordinates the action of various organs. When the body has a nervous system to regulate and coordinate the actions of various organs, what is the requirement of this endocrine system? The endocrine system is required as the nerve fibers do not reach every cell of the body. Further, there is a refractory period between the firing of two consecutive action potentials during which, irrespective of the strength of the stimuli, the conduction of nerve impulses does not occur. This refractory period does not allow the nervous system to regulate the cellular activities continuously. The glands of the endocrine system release specific chemicals that reach all the body cells through the bloodstream. Further, these chemicals can be secreted continuously without any resting period in between. So, the endocrine system and the nervous system work coordinately to regulate the various physiological processes. I have a doubt here. If both the endocrine system and the nervous system work to regulate the physiological process and brings about the coordination among the various organs, do these systems work by the same mechanism? Do the cells of the endocrine system also release neurotransmitters in synapse? The answer is no. These two organ systems work by different mechanisms. Let us discuss some basic differences in the functioning of the endocrine and the nervous system. The neurotransmitters from the neuron are released locally, which then target the postsynaptic cell present in the close vicinity. Chemicals secreted from the endocrine glands are carried to tissues throughout the body by the blood. So these chemicals have the target cells located usually away from the gland. In case of nervous system, the target cells of the nervous system are smooth, cardiac and skeletal muscles gland and other neurons. The secretion from the endocrine glands target the cells throughout the body in case of endocrine system. Nervous system produces a response within milliseconds, but the action is short-lived and lasts soon. The endocrine system takes seconds to hours or days to produce the response, but the responses are longer and long-lived. You might ask a question here. What are these glands of the endocrine system? Are they similar to the other glands such as sweat glands? And what are the chemicals that they secrete? The endocrine system is composed of glands called the endocrine glands. These glands do not have ducts to release their secretions. They are known as ductless glands. So, they release their products into the interstitial fluid that surrounds the secretory cells. From the interstitial fluid, the endocrine secretions diffuses into the blood capillaries and enters the bloodstream. The blood then carries this secretion throughout the body. The secretions of these endocrine glands are called hormones. So, hormones are the molecules with the following specific features. Let us check. They are non-nutrient chemicals, which means that they are not the source of nutrition. They are intercellular messengers, which means that hormones are released from one cell and affect the functioning or the physiology of another cell or the target cell. They are produced in very small amount and the amount of a typical hormone present in the bloodstream is very low. They bind to the receptors present on the target cells to exert their effect. And this feature of hormone is similar to that of the neurotransmitters of the nervous system. I have a doubt here. Do all organisms have an endocrine system? The endocrine system is present in both vertebrates and invertebrates. Though invertebrates have a simple endocrine system that produces only a few hormones when compared with the complex endocrine system of vertebrates that produces a large number of hormones. To understand it, let us discuss the endocrine system of humans. The human endocrine system includes endocrine glands and organs and tissues that secrete certain hormones. The endocrine glands are the pituitary, thyroid, parathyroid, adrenal and pineal glands. The other endocrine organs or the tissues are the hypothalamus, thymus, pancreas, ovaries, testes, kidneys, stomach, liver, small intestine, skin, heart, adipose tissues and placenta. Let us discuss the hypothalamus and pituitary gland and their hormones in detail now. Recall that the diencephalon of the brain, that is a forebrain, consists of hypothalamus and the thalamus. Being a part of the brain, the hypothalamus has regulatory centers for hunger, sleep, thirst, body temperature and water balance. But this small region of the brain serves as a link between the nervous and the endocrine systems. Can you tell me how? Hypothalamus has a group of neurosecretory cells that synthesize releasing hormones and inhibiting hormones. These group of cells are called nuclei. As the name suggests, the releasing hormone of the hypothalamus stimulate the secretion of hormones from the anterior pituitary gland, while the inhibiting hormone inhibits their secretion of hormones. Let us name some of these hypothalamic hormones and the respective hormones of the anterior pituitary whose secretions they regulate. First is a growth hormone releasing hormone, that is a GHRH. It stimulates the secretion of growth hormone from the pituitary gland. Second is a thyrotropin releasing hormone or the TRH. It stimulates the secretion of thyroid stimulating hormone, that is a TSH. Corticotropin releasing hormone or the CRH stimulates the secretion of adrenocorticotropic hormone, that is the ACTH. Prolactin releasing hormone or the PRH stimulates the secretion of prolactin. Gonadotropin releasing hormone, that is a GnRH, stimulates the secretion of gonadotropins, which the FSH and the LH are included. Growth hormone inhibiting hormone, that is a GHIH, also called somatostatin, inhibits the secretion of growth hormone. Prolactin inhibiting hormone, that is a PIH, inhibits the secretion of prolactin. We will discuss the above mentioned hormones of the anterior pituitary gland soon. However, you should know that the hypothalamus also synthesizes two more hormones that are stored and released by the posterior pituitary gland into the bloodstream. We will discuss these hormones along with other hormones of the pituitary gland. I have a doubt here. These releasing and the inhibiting hypothalamic hormones are synthesized by the nuclei of the hypothalamus. Are they released into the bloodstream to target the anterior pituitary gland? If not, How do these hormones target the anterior pituitary? The answer is a hypophyseal portal system. Let us discuss it briefly. The neurosecretory cells of the hypothalamus release the hormones from the nerve endings. In the hypophyseal portal system, the blood from the capillaries in the hypothalamus carries these hormones from the hypothalamus to the portal veins, which then deliver them to the capillaries of the anterior pituitary. So, the secretion of the hormones from the anterior pituitary is regulated by the hypothalamic hormones. You might ask a question here. Are there any hypothalamic hormones that regulate the secretion of hormones from the posterior pituitary? If yes, which are they? If not, what regulates the functioning of the posterior pituitary? So, we have to discuss this pituitary gland to find out the answers. The pituitary gland is a pea-shaped structure that is present in the hypophyseal fossa of the sella turcica of the sphenoid bone. It is attached to the hypothalamus by a stalk, the infundibulum. It has two anatomically and functionally separate parts called the anterior pituitary and the posterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary is also called the adenohypophysis and makes up about 75% of the total weight of the gland. The anterior pituitary has two parts in an adult, which are the larger pars distalis and the small pars intermedia. The pars intermedia is a part of the pituitary gland that degenerates during the human fetal development. It is not present as a separate lobe in adults, but some of its cells become a part of the anterior pituitary. The posterior pituitary or the neurohypophysis is composed of neural tissue. It includes pars nervosa and the infundibulum stalk. The pars distalis is commonly called the anterior pituitary since it secretes most of the pituitary hormones. Let us discuss these hormones briefly. Growth hormone or somatotropin stimulates the general body growth and regulates the general metabolism. Thyroid stimulating hormone regulates the synthesis and secretions of thyroid hormones. Follicle stimulating hormone or the FSH and luteinizing hormone, that is the LH, also called the gonadotropins, as they are both act on the gonads, that is the testes and the ovaries. In males, LH stimulate the Leydig cells of the testes to secrete testosterone, while FSH along with testosterone regulate the process of the production of sperm, and it is termed as spermatogenesis, that is the production of sperm. While in case of females, LH stimulates ovulation of the Graafian follicle to release the secondary oocyte and maintains the corpus luteum. FSH triggers the growth and development of follicles in the ovaries. We will discuss these hormones in detail while studying the sexual reproduction in humans. Prolactin initiates milk production in the mammary glands. Adrenocorticotropic hormones, that is the ACTH hormone, stimulates the adrenal cortex to secrete glucocorticoids such as cortisol. Here, you should remember that the anterior pituitary hormone that act on other endocrine glands are called tropic hormones or the tropins. So, thyroid stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone and gonadotropins are tropic hormones. Due to the production of tropic hormones, the pituitary was once considered the master gland that regulates the other endocrine glands. However, it is established now that the secretion of these tropic hormones is under the regulation of hypothalamic hormones. You might ask a question here. Do the remnants of the pars intermedia present in the anterior pituitary also secrete any hormone? The answer is yes. It secretes melanocyte stimulating hormone, which is called as MSH. Its function is not known in humans, but it regulates the skin color in lower vertebrates. How? By triggering the melanin production from melanocytes in the skin. I have doubts again. What are the hormones secreted by the posterior pituitary then? The posterior pituitary, that is a neurohypophysis pars nervosa, does not synthesize hormones, but it receives two neurohormones from the hypothalamus. And these are oxytocin and vasopressin, or the antidiuretic hormone, or the ADH. So, the posterior pituitary stores and releases these two hormones into the bloodstream. Oxytocin is also called the birth hormone. During childbirth, it triggers a contraction of the smooth muscles of the uterine wall to facilitate the delivery. After the child's birth, it stimulates the letdown or the ejection of milk from the mammary glands. Secondly, ADH or vasopressin stimulates the reabsorption of water and salts by the distal tubules of the kidneys. The final result is a reduced loss of water in the form of urine and the conservation of body water. The term diuresis means excess production of urine. So, antidiuresis means inhibition of excess urine production. I have a doubt here. What if the secretion of one or more hormones from the pituitary or any other endocrine glands become abnormal? In other words, does the less than normal or above than normal secretion of hormones affect the normal functioning of the body? The answer is yes. Malfunctioning of one or more endocrine glands can cause some diseases. Let us discuss some of them. First is the pituitary dwarfism. As the name suggests, it is caused by too little or no hyposecretion of growth hormone from the anterior pituitary. It causes reduced bone growth during the growth years, resulting in stunt growth. Secondly, pituitary gigantism. It occurs due to the excess or the hypersecretion of growth hormone from the anterior pituitary. It causes an abnormal increase in the length of the long bones. It will make the person grow very tall. You might ask a question here. What if the hypersecretion of growth hormone occurs in the middle age or in adulthood? Thirdly, hypersecretion of growth hormone during adulthood causes acromegaly. Since the length of the long bones does not increase after the growing years, excess growth hormone in adults causes enlargement and thickening of bones of feet, hands and jaws. It causes imperfections in the face and might result in the premature death if not diagnosed on time. However, the disease is mostly not diagnosed in the early stages since the external changes become observable after many years. I have a doubt again. Is there any disorder caused by hyper or hyposecretion of hormones from the posterior pituitary? The next point is the inability to secrete the ADH causes the diabetic insipidus, in which a large volume of urine is produced. Due to the excess loss of water from the body in the form of urine, the affected persons become dehydrated and thirsty. Diabetes insipidus also occurs when the normal amount of ADH is released from the posterior pituitary, but the ADH receptors on the kidney cells become non-functional. Here, you should remember that diabetes insipidus is not related to blood sugar levels. Now that you have learned about the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland and their hormones, can you name some other hormones secreted by other endocrine glands and their role in the body? You might have heard about diabetics caused by the reduced secretion of insulin hormones, right? It is a common disease nowadays. Can you name the endocrine gland that secretes insulin? We will discuss the endocrine glands and their hormones in the respective functions in the next video. Now, let us summarize what we have learned.
Manorama Horizon. Learning made simple.